go down the canal, down the river, you can see that CCID's delivery canal runs parallel to the river. Chris can talk about it more than I can, but the delivery canal is parallel, and you irrigate from the river to the west, or the northwest. So it's actually, the slope is away. So when you put water in the river, and it's higher, guess where the water wants to go? And the light goes into the field. Next. Here is monitor well 89, a little bit further down. You can see it shows more the little blip we had from the side flows. Drop back down, and drop right back up. We're less than 2 feet now. And note that land. Next. This one is an interesting, and I don't know how to best describe it, and I'll ask for some help from others here. Monitoring well 92. That's right close to where you guys stopped at San Salud Control Structure today. Mr. Nichols' ranch was right there in Tomatoes. He last spring, had damage due to the flows from the restoration program. It was only about 700 CFS, and what it did was it brought the water table up in that land at 700 CFS up to right about here. Now I didn't go back that far on this chart, but the hydrograph is right about here. And so with that, we noticed it, talked to Reclamation, showed a lot of data, had a lot of discussions, and actually Reclamation agreed to drop the flows down. They reduced it from 700 CFS, this is last March now, down to 100 CFS, and the water table consequently dropped in that area. We worked with them a lot and went through a whole lot of testimony in front of the state board and worked on what would be a good amount of flow to run past it this next year and starting last fall through this year. Now that's before we have any flood flows. So, flood flows kind of mess the whole thing up. But what happened was, we can go into a little discussion, but of course we feel Reclamation should have put in a tile system to mitigate the damage, right? There's a whole lot of reasons why it didn't get put in by Reclamation, one of them being just process, environmental work, and also a grower saying, well, I can't wait for your process, because what's going to happen is your process takes a long time. I'm going to be damaged again with next year's pulse flows. So they went and put in his own tile system. So you can see what happened on December 4th. He installed his own tile system. The water table dropped to here. We had that first flow in the, we told you those flood flows from the side flows. It's about Christmas time, so here they showed up, went up a little bit, the system reacted, tile system kicked on, brought the water table down, kept it about 6 feet. So what happened here, you say, gosh, that got up pretty high. Into January, you had some big flows. You know what happened here? We had a lot of rain in end of January, first part of February. A lot of rain. Mr. Nickel couldn't get his equipment out to fuel up the generator because there's no power out there. It runs off the generator. It ran out of fuel. The tile line didn't work, and so the water table rose right back up to where it was before. Finally dried out enough, you could get fuel in the lines, got it started, and it started to draw it back down again.
So how low does how many feet below the surface does he need to keep it so he can grow and harvest?
He'd like to keep it down around 8 feet. It probably won't be there, but if you can see right now, I printed it this morning, it's right around 6.5 feet. So out in that area where you guys were, there's 3,200 CFS in the river now, and it's able to, that tile line is able to keep it down at almost 6.5 feet. So it will work. And now, is that the complete solution? I don't know if it is, but it's sure showing to me that it works pretty well. Yes?
I assume part of the construction of Triumph that this is an annual issue. I mean, even the drive through the flood flows. And so wouldn't there be this issue as a historic matter? And in fact, the reason that you don't have as high a water table in the area now is you don't have as high a water table now as you have historically being pre-tried,
Right.
is a result of the fact that there's no flow down.
Well, a couple of things. We did have high flows before Flyant, and we didn't divert it all. But the reason that on the San Joaquin River, right about here, it's called Sac Dam, delivery point for San Luis Canal Company, was when the spring flow started to taper off, they would put sacks literally across the dam and divert the water into San Luis Canal Company, and we would actually dry up the river when the flows dropped down. What that allowed it to do is when you dried up the river, or down in, so we're diverting the water right about here, this would dry up. It gave the natural groundwater a chance to move itself out, and actually the river would become a drain back. So yeah, you'd have some high flows and it would drop off, and you'd be able to have a chance to drain back into your system. Now, if you got to remember, back prior to Fryant, you didn't have the intensive cropping. You didn't have the permanent crops. You don't have the tomatoes. You know, you had a lot of grains and a lot of natural pasture, and you had alfalfa. You know, you didn't have the crop mix you have today. So, because of that reason. So, yes, were there some high flows? Sure. But also, there wasn't one channel through here. There's a reason it's called Salt Slough, Santa Rita Slough, Pozo Slough, you know, Wood Slough, Lone Willow. It was an anti-branch system. So the river flowed out into a whole bunch. If we had a map, if you go look up at like a federal water district, Westlands, Broadview, Pinoche, they're nice square sections, you know, broken out in nice quarter sections. Everything's square. It's, you know, it's nice and neat. I find you to find a section in here that isn't cut up with a slough or a drain or something. So they use, Miller Lux used the natural channels and drains and sloughs for delivery or drains. So the water, my point is, there wasn't this main channel that could hold 4,000 or 5,000 CFS. It broke out and flushed out through the system. Secondly, you brought up a good point, but we were not part of the settlement. It was Fryant, NRDC, and the Bureau of Reclamation. We were not part of it. So the protections that we have were in the legislation. That's where we had say. The settlement was between those agencies, and they came out with the settlement and said, here it is. And even Bryant Colton at the time said, you know, we did what we could do to protect you, but we didn't do a very good job. Remember, we're downstream, they're upstream, and that wasn't their focus. So our protections are in the legislation for the San Joaquin River Settlement Act. And the legislation says you will provide mitigation to the lands that you impact. It's written right into it. That's because we negotiated in there. And so...